Well, hello everyone. We're 3 minutes past the hour, and let's go ahead and get started today. I am Amanda Owenbring, CEO of the Upcycled Food Association, and we're so glad that you can join us today, whether you're a member or interested in learning more about upcycling. We're excited to spend the next time just discussing and exploring a great topic to bring us together this August. So we'll get started with just a little bit of an overview of what we're going to cover today in Crave-worthy copywriting. So welcome to one of our webinars that we're hosting as part of our series this summer. It's been a great summer marking Upcycled Food Month in June and a lot going on over at Upcycled Food Association. We are a membership-based trade association working globally with members all across the supply chain, whether they have an upcycled product yet or not. We're really the home for those resources and sharing best practices like we're going to be exploring today. So we'll be spending some time with our guest speaker and wrapping up with a Q&A. So I invite you as we cover a little bit of housekeeping in the next slide. This reminding that this webinar is recorded. It'll be shared with you as a follow-up for attendees and our Upcycled Food Association members. As we go through today's content, please feel free to submit your questions using the Q&A feature. And we also have the chat feature active as well. So we welcome you to introduce yourself and mention where you're calling from in the chat as we get started here. And following the webinar, we will be sending an email that includes information about our speaker and resources shared today. So look forward to that as well. So to dive right in, want to welcome, and I'm excited to have our guest speaker, Emily Baksa, joining us today. Emily is a food copywriter and marketing strategist who uses mealtime to make a positive impact on people and the planet. Her Crave-worthy, conversion-focused copy helps grow sustainable CPG brands, recipe creators, and culinary changemakers like Blue Zone Kitchens and Food Hack. She specializes in email marketing optimization, sales funnel strategies, and product launches, and has spent her entire career working in food service and hospitality. So welcome, Emily, and I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Amanda. Hi, everyone. It's really great to be here with you today. As Amanda mentioned, I'm a food copywriter and a marketing strategist, and I work with a variety of food brands and culinary creatives, but my real passion is working with people who share my values for sustainability and using food as a means for positive change. So I'm extra excited about talking to you all today. I've been following the upcycled movement for a long time, and I've always just been really inspired by all the innovation that is out there. So thank you for all of your hard work that you're doing. And my hope is that my expertise in brand awareness and nurturing customer relationships and ultimately generating sales will help strengthen your existing amazing offers to get them in the hands of more consumers. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's start with a little bit of a state of affairs, setting the scene. One significant challenge that our consumers really face today, especially in grocery shopping, is decision fatigue. There's a lot being said on any one package, and consumers have a really healthy skepticism about claims. There have been all kinds of quote-unquote trends that hit the scene, and it makes it harder than ever for consumers to make choices in the grocery store. This decision fatigue is also really applicable in more of a B2B marketing role too, because food is a really personal choice with a lot of different factors, and decision makers are naturally a little overwhelmed by lots of options and types of information. So you all are, of course, part of one of the latest quote-unquote trends in food, which is upcycling. And with a lesser known or new to the scene concept with a complex message like upcycling, one thing that's super important is being clear and consistent with your messaging. When you nurture your customers with consistent messaging that promotes clarity, it helps build relationship and establish trust, and that ultimately makes purchases more likely, and it's really impactful in maintaining this movement. The Upcycled Food Association has an awesome marketing toolkit for you that I took a peek at that has some great baseline messaging about what upcycling is, how to communicate it to your community, but you're all very unique. So Of course, you need to customize this type of messaging to what your priorities are and use that to communicate a cohesive brand story across all the multiple marketing channels that you manage. All of you stand out because of the unique way that you embrace sustainability and innovation, and that's super admirable. But in reality, your marketing messaging actually should focus a little bit less on you and your achievements and more about your customer and consumers. When we create a super awesome product, it's really tempting to highlight how great it is with all of its features. But these features are beneficial, but they aren't the ultimate decision maker for someone choosing to buy. When you shift your message to focus more on the benefits that these features really provide to a consumer and how it helps transform their day-to-day life or that moment in time, this is really impactful. So for instance, a lot of upcycled foods are really nutrient dense. So rather than listing out all of the nutrients that are packed into your product because of the amazing nutrient dense byproduct that you use, you can instead try to position your product like the snack bar offers 5 key nutrients that help keep you energized to start the day. This very subtle shift puts the consumer at the center of your message and your marketing rather than the product itself, and shows how it's going to make their life better, and it's much more empowering and persuasive. So this is a very simplified version of a marketing funnel, which is just a general pathway that most consumers follow to the point of making a purchase. It's not really always this linear, but we'll use it for clarity. This awareness stage in the beginning is where people throw a lot of effort for good reason, because if not enough people know that you exist or who you are, or if your message is too complex, you simply just won't make a sale. People won't know that you exist. Promoting awareness can be done through various methods, things like writing SEO optimized blogs that drive traffic to your website, buying ads on social media, and then also there's a lot of retailer strategies, of course, you can use end caps, eye-catching signage and displays, etc. But it's vital to remember that consumers need more than just exposure. It's very unlikely that someone's going to encounter you for the first time and immediately decide to buy your product. More nurturing is what's really needed. And that's where this interest and desire is essential to develop relationships with longer-term customers. And this is where I see a lot of brands need to emphasize a little bit more in their marketing plan. So marketing strategies that build interest include things like product samples, free trials, helpful content, like how to use your product, opt-ins for emails, something small essentially that you offer to build engagement and interest with people who are already kind of aware of who you are. Building desire takes it a step further by emphasizing the problems that your product solves and the perks that it offers. That transformation effect that I was kind of alluding to before. This creates that sense of urgency and that feeling of like, I really need this in my life. Common solutions and desires that food in particular addresses are things like convenience, saving time, nostalgia is a big one, saving money, feeling really good physically in your body, feeling confident in the kitchen or in your body as well. And of course, just like pure pleasure and deliciousness, because that's ultimately what food's all about, right? This brings us to one of the most powerful persuasion techniques in copy and marketing that's particularly relevant to sustainability brands like you all in this upcycling movement, and that is building unity. When you make people feel included in the upcycled movement, you're inviting them to join a community that shares like-minded values and is working towards a positive mission. This is really powerful. It gives people a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging, inspiration for their life. And this ultimately can help inspire action. That could be buying your product, but it could also be a broader systemic change about getting more involved in these types of issues. Helping your consumers feel a part of something larger when they buy your product is far more impactful than simply listing out all of its features and benefits. First of all, it's crucial that what you offer needs to taste good and your messaging should be clear and cohesive. But if you can take it to the next level and create a community of inspired consumers, that emotional connection is really powerful. And you're all kind of naturally doing this. You're all part of a movement. So welcome your consumers to join you. It's another really subtle way that you make your product and your experience more about empowering them than it is about promoting yourself. So as I alluded to a few moments ago, there's a lot of emphasis on an awareness stage in marketing, but you can't overlook the strategies that build that interest and desire, those nurturing tactics. So that's what I wanted to dive deeper into here with you. So these are some ways that a copywriter can help you emphasize these interest and desire points through 3 of your core marketing channels, which is your website, social media, and your email marketing. These are kind of the foundations that we should all have in place somewhat because they're really exceptionally powerful. So first of all, a high converting website speaks directly to your ideal customer and focuses less on your successes and more on how this individual will transform thanks to your product. So a really strong understanding of who exactly you're talking to here makes a big difference. It's okay to niche in who and be very specific about who you are targeting because it's actually much more likely to be successful than by trying to target a large, broad audience, because you can have more of that very clear messaging that you can emphasize when you're speaking to more of a targeted audience. Also, your website should always highlight this cause, this upcycle movement, and what you stand for, because as we noted, it can attract those like-minded people, join a movement, and really emphasize really create a really powerful experience. And this type of messaging should be consistent across any page on your website. So no matter where anyone lands, they can have a pretty good sense of what you're all about, because people will come to your website in a variety of different ways. Social media, of course, we know how powerful that is in building community and inspiring change. And it also has the enormous benefit of timeliness. So some of my content tips to people is to always use it to tease things like upcoming offers that build anticipation for exclusive announcements, limited time offers and deals, etc. This type of organic content really helps reward your audience for following along and make them feel special. If you have a really large and loyal following, one post can make a big impact, but if you're still growing your reach, you may want to also consider investing in paid advertisements, because they can really help you identify those people who are interested in your product and who may not yet be aware of you. And it also could open up an avenue of a target audience that you may not have realized. So you don't have to spend a ton of money to do this. You can experiment and see where it leads. Finally, email is really powerful. I'm a big advocate for email marketing because it's kind of the only channel that you have complete control over. There's no social or search algorithm involved here. You own your list, and it's a really powerful way to connect and nurture with your customers. I always recommend that every brand have a welcome sequence in place to help nurture those and grow relationships with those new people, these new subscribers. Other e-commerce emails like abandoned cart sequences or post-purchase series, they have incredibly high conversion rates and can also be really impactful to reestablish or renew relationships with people who have kind of gone cold. When you personalize your emails like this based on buying habits and interests and patterns, when you do it in a very genuine way, it makes people feel understood, which ultimately reinforces their connection to your brand. It can be very powerful. The thing about email is the success of your email marketing is highly dependent on the quality of your email list. And that's where your opt-in comes into play. You want to offer something enticing and of value to a consumer in exchange for their email address to help qualify them as your ideal customer. So things like join our email list in an opt-in really are low converting or poor quality converting for a few reasons. One, it doesn't tell the consumer at all what they're going to get out of it, which doesn't really make it of interest. And also, it's kind of more about you than it is about them, once again. So The other thing that I see out in the field too are things like discount codes, very popular in e-commerce, provide your email for 10% off. The only problem with that is often consumers tend to grab the discount, make a one-time purchase, and move on. So I instead really encourage people to think about creating an opt-in that's super engaging. Things like product challenges, quizzes are getting really popular right now. Other useful resources like recipe ideas for how to use your product. These all attract high quality subscribers who are interested in you, and that ultimately creates a healthy list you can engage with over and over. So no matter what type of marketing you're focusing on, whatever channel you're talking in, whether it's websites, emails, sales funnel, copy of any kind, there are 5 things that you can keep in mind to help promote conversions. So the first one is being clear and concise. Once again, it's a big one. Over clever. There's a strong tendency to kind of sound funny, witty, and cool. And that obviously attracts people, but if it distracts from your ultimate message, it does nothing kind of but do damage. So being clear and concise is really important, especially when you're talking about a nuanced or kind of new complicated messaging like upcycling, which is something people are still kind of trying to understand. Offering social proof is really powerful through things like testimonials and reviews. People love to know that people like them have gotten to know you and like you. Every piece of copy should always have a call to action, which is essentially just the next step that you want people to take as you nurture them through this marketing funnel. Now, the call to action does not and should not always be to buy something. When people are just kind of getting to know you or you're building that interest phase, they're not quite primed for purchase yet. So you might instead have a call to action to learn more about your upcycling philosophies or to download a free resource guide or something like that. 4, always follow through sounds super obvious, but it's worth noting that if you promise something to people, do it. People, this is an enormous trust building landscape, this scenario. If you are going to offer something for free, give it to them. If you're running a contest, keep them updated. It helps promote transparency and build trust, which is really, really valuable. And you can lose trust really easy by just not doing this. And finally, testing and optimizing is really important. When you're writing copy, you can do things like run split tests, or they're also called A/B tests, in things like your email, on social media ads, on pages of your website, and ultimately see what converts the best, and then implement that highest converting copy into your marketing strategy so you're always getting the best value. Testing and assessing performance and metrics is just part of the game. It's how you manage a healthy marketing strategy. So a copywriter like me can help you create and optimize a well-executed marketing campaign that builds this brand awareness, interest, and desire that leads to this action. My role is really to communicate who you are in a way that resonates best with your target audience to convert those browsers into buyers. And I like to think I offer a little bit of a unique perspective because my whole background has been in marketing. So I always am thinking big picture. Copy should always be a part of a very intentional sales funnel, so we always know what we're writing, why, and how it matters. So that's a bit of the lens that I also like to provide to my clients because it helps ultimately lead to the most successful campaigns. If you're interested, if I've piqued some curiosity in you, you can scan this QR code to book a quick 15-minute consultation call with me. I'd love to just hear a little bit more about your struggles or kick around some ideas. Happy to do that because you all each have your own unique kind of goals and priorities. So I'd love to hear a little bit about them and weigh in a personal way. You can also go to my website, emilybaksa.com, and learn a little bit more about me there. If you go to /CPG copy, you can also see some of the offers that I have in place for supporting brands like you all. But for now, if you have any questions, I think we're going to segue into the Q&A portion of things.
Thank you, Emily. Such a great, digestible, bite-sized deep dive into your expertise. I really appreciate what you've shared. And we have some great questions queued up in the Q&A box. Invite you to enter more questions there as you think of any. But as a great segue to get started, what sorts of things should we be tracking on email marketing to understand what language is working?
Good question. So there's lots of different types of copy that you can measure on your email performance. People tend to hyper focus on open rates, of course, because you want people to be opening your emails. So that's where you can test things like your subject line copy. And your subject line and your preview text, you can run testing on to see what has a higher open rate. But ultimately, it's really those conversion and click-through rates in your emails that I think are the most important thing to really assess. So people opening your email is a great thing, good step one. But in the email, you're asking them to do something. You should be asking them to do something. So if that involves clicking through to check out the new product page for your product launch or learn more about something, that click-through rate message would probably be the most impactful metric to focus on.
As a add on to that, how can I make my website, make my target audience feel extra understood?
Excellent question. That's kind of what it's all about, right? So that honestly starts with having a really good understanding of your target audience. You need that. And that comes from all kinds of things. It can come from sometimes just like conversations with your people and seeing what questions people are asking on social media or over email, reading product reviews about how people are using things or what struggles they're continuing to have or what they love the most. So you have to first really know who they are. And it's amazing how often people kind of don't, because it's easy not to unless you invest energy in it. So assuming you have that in place, it's really about making sure your website highlights those desires, those core desires for that group. So what are the things that they wish for throughout the day that keep them up at night, that your product can help them solve? I highlighted some of those desires that are like saving time, nostalgia for foods of our childhood, cost effectiveness and saving money, feeling really good in your body, like food that makes you just feel fantastic. Those are the things that you can really, types of things that you can hone in on to really emphasize in your site. And then it really can show an element of transformation for those people that you're speaking to those desires and showing them how you help them get there.
That's definitely been a theme that I've been hearing coming up just across the larger food loss and waste conversation is time is money and stopping food waste is saving you time. So I think that's such a great resonance with a broader consumer base in a great way. So thinking
Absolutely.
about, other emotional trigger words to stay away from or use more on email, web, or social. Any recommendations there?
Ooh, that's really personal to you, honestly. I think that there are certain words that imply, like, as a general consensus, I think as a society, we're shifting away from words, that are really kind of like shaming, especially like body shaming words, or words that are uh, like addictive is not a word that I find a lot of people love to use, no matter how, many bags of it you could eat in one sitting. That touches on a bit of a sensitive subject for people. So that's one. Health claims in general, and about, unless you have real proof around a thing, I don't always encourage making certain claims that we can't back up around health. People are very sensitive to those health claims, and obviously you want to make sure we don't want to mislead people into certain things. So it's really just about what do you feel comfortable, what is ethically the right thing to kind of say, and then what do you feel comfortable saying as a brand based on your personality. That's really a big factor. And then generally the kind of ultra sensitive topics around body and mental health, I think are really kind of, you can get yourself into sticky scenarios there. And I think that we just need to be ultra sensitive to that type of language.
One thing I'm definitely reflecting on and hearing what you've shared today, Emily, is just what's resonating across the network, being a global network of all sorts of companies doing all sorts of different great innovation out in the world. A theme I've been hearing and kind of what is the innovation of the next 5 years is consumers are really looking for that taste. They're looking for value and they're looking for excitement. So I think that's really where upcycling shines and can check a lot of those boxes, especially with the younger buying demographics. So would invite people today, to think about one thing you learned today that you could write down that's a simple action that you could take today or tomorrow to take a next step in embedding this into what you're doing. Emily, in a closing, do you have kind of one thing that you'd recommend people write down on that list?
One action step for today, honestly, I would just one of the main points I want you all to kind of remember from here is shifting your message to always think about your customer first. And that's where like having an outside support, like a copywriter, I think is, or any type of outside freelancer or vendor can be so helpful. You guys have been building this thing from the ground up and know it so well that it's naturally going to be a tendency to think very much from your perspective. But if you can try to take that hat off and put yourself in the shoes of who you're talking to and write to that person and keep them in mind first, and rather than promoting some of the things on about yourself, that little shift makes everything so much more impactful. So I highly encourage you to think about maybe scenarios where you are being uber self-promotional and could just flip it in a few nuanced ways to make it more of an appeal to your consumer than about highlighting your own features.
Thank you. It's tangible, practical, achievable. We'll take that away and continue to chew on your excellent advice today, Emily. So just want to thank you for the time you've spent with us and, really thank our participants on the line today. And as you are simmering on these concepts, think about how to use the network of Upcycled Food Association, your peers across work in all sorts of different ways, and would invite you to just deep dive into some of the stories we just shared on our most recent quarterly digest. Just drop that link in the chat and we'll include it in the follow-up email as well to find those stories of inspiration and excitement. Use the member directory, reach out to your peers, have conversations about this with them and about this with us. We thank you all for joining us today. Emily, special thanks to you, and we'll be in touch by email. Check out upcycledfood.org for upcoming events as we get closer into fall. And thank you all for joining us today. Stay well.
Thank you, everyone, and thanks for all your amazing work out there. Keep it up.